Is the college football world sleeping on Georgia quarterback Gunnar Stockton a little bit? Right, Gunnar Stockton is the presumed starting quarterback for Georgia. Looks like he has a strong lead on the QB1 battle this spring practice. And I'm looking at Heisman odds. Now, this isn't a conversation about who's most likely to win the Heisman. But the Heisman odds are kind of a barometer for me right now. And also, look, I'm in this world and I'm paying attention. I know what people are talking about. Gunnar is the fifth quarterback in the SEC, sixth quarterback in the SEC in Heisman odds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six best odds out of the SEC quarterbacks. So there's 5 guys ahead of him, and people are more excited about these players. And, only one of them is older like Gunnar and has been around in college football. This is going to be Gunnar's 4th season of college football. And I look at the situation at Texas. I look at the situation at Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, right? Florida, some of these other schools where the quarterbacks are just getting hyped up more. And I don't see a situation that's necessarily better than the one Gunnar Stockton is walking into as the likely starting quarterback in 2025 at Georgia. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post. Talking about some SEC quarterbacks, right? It's not always just about the Dogs. We cover college football at large a little bit too. And obviously, we watch these guys on a weekly basis when the fall comes around. Heisman odds, right? So you could just kind of get with me here. Garrett Nussmeier and Arch Manning tied for first at plus 800 with their Heisman odds. So they're the leaders in the clubhouse to bring that trophy home this offseason. People are expecting huge years out of both of those guys. Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava, plus 1,700. He's 8th. South Carolina's Lenore Sellers, he is 9th at plus 1,800. Florida's DJ Lagway, he is 11th at plus 2,000. Georgia's Gunnar Stockton tied for 15th at plus 3,300. So drop off there in odds. There's more value in betting Gunnar Stockton on this award if you do like to put money down for these kind of future bets. And all these odds are from FanDuel. So I'm just kind of using this as a barometer for, hey, people don't feel as strongly about Gunnar Stockton having a really good season in 2025. And to be honest with you, I find that pretty interesting. And I don't know as much about LSU situation, so I'm not going to spend as much time. I'm not going to sit here and talk about things I don't really know a lot about. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you much about LSU, but I'm pretty familiar with what Texas has going on, with what Tennessee has going on, Florida and South Carolina. And you don't even have to dig too deep into Florida and South Carolina situations to know Gunnar's will have a better atmosphere. He'll have better teammates around him, more talent around him than Lenore Sellers and DJ Lagway will. Now, supremely talented. Lenore Sellers is one of the best running quarterbacks I've ever seen, and I've only seen a small sample size. That game against Clemson where he scrambled them to victory was ultra impressive on rivalry weekend day. Michigan and Alabama, or Michigan and Ohio State got into a scuffle weekend that Georgia Tech went to 8 overtimes. One of the most impressive things that happened that weekend was Lenore Sellers scrambling South Carolina to victory. He's got arm talent, right? He's got a cannon. I don't know that he's a great quarterback. Lagway, I've got stock in Lagway hype. Let's just put it that way. I've got some stock in DJ Lagway hype. I think that he could be very good. We know that. What is getting better about Florida's situation? And I'll pull up all these numbers here and discuss those a little bit as well. Let's talk about Tennessee. Let's talk about Nico and Tennessee before we get into Arch Manning at Texas and Gunnar at Georgia. So, Tennessee. This was a team last year that was a run-first football team. They had Dylan Sampson, and he was the most productive running back in the conference. Wasn't close, right? 20-plus touchdowns, a ton of yards. It was run-first. And it was not... You know how Tennessee, they like to spread the receivers out very wide. They like things spread out. They want quick-hitting plays on the outside, and they want deep balls in the long run if the run isn't there. That is the very, very lame way of putting Tennessee's offense. And it doesn't work against some of these really good defensive teams. It doesn't really work against Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart and Georgia's scheme. They're losing Dylan Sampson. Younger receivers are coming in. Mike Matthews was a 5-star receiver out of the state of Georgia. Looks like he's primed to start. No Squirrel White, no Deontay Thornton. They're replacing a lot of their offensive line, including long tenured guy in Cooper Mays. They're replacing, it looks like, at least 5 guys on the offensive line. I don't know 100% if all 5 of them were starters, but definitely a couple of these guys were multi-year starters for Tennessee. So when you compare that to a Georgia, okay, Georgia's dealing with the same thing. But we know that Georgia, 4 out of the 5 guys that are probably going to start on the offensive line have started games before and have played in significant snaps. So it's not like they've never played before. There is experience on Georgia's offensive line. Georgia losing a running back in Trevor Etienne as well. But what Georgia did do is they brought in some pretty legit receivers, and they have tight ends that have been around for a long time. And you trust Miles Kittleman is going to be there for Tennessee as well. Pretty good tight end. So that's kind of similar. But to me, when I watched Nico Iamaleava this past year, and I watched a lot of Tennessee games, and I obviously covered the game that he played, I just didn't really come away that impressed. It's one of those things where dude has arm talent, doesn't necessarily have accuracy on the deep ball. I watched him miss plenty of balls over the heads of guys on deep routes, and that is something that Tennessee really likes to run in their offense. He played okay in a lot of these games. He was really good against UT Chattanooga at the beginning of the season. He was solid against NC State, right? He doesn't turn the ball over a lot, but this wasn't really a prolific passing offense the way it was with Hendon Hooker, and not even quite as productive as with Joe Milton the year after that. But all of his big hitting production comes against cupcake teams or teams that they're just better than. And that's fine, and that happens sometimes, but in big games, no touchdowns and an interception against Florida. No touchdowns against Georgia. Against Alabama, he had the 1 touchdown. Nice, they clawed their way into a victory there. Went to Oklahoma, and they beat them defensively. He wasn't asked to do too much in that game. Kentucky, he was okay. And the rushing production wasn't quite as what you thought it would be, about 358 yards and 3 touchdowns. At Ohio State, it's unfortunate they had to go up there to Columbus. Couldn't get anything going up there, and they got crushed by the Buckeyes, and he was under 50% with no touchdowns. So, yes, he's got a whole year of starting experience. Gunnar doesn't. This is not really me beating on the drum for Gunnar. I do think that he can be a good starting quarterback at the collegiate level, but this is more about why is there so much more faith in these other guys? Because what have they really shown us? We've seen flashes from Nico. All right, we've certainly seen flashes from Arch Manning. Let's go ahead and discuss Arch Manning. He's obviously a Manning. He's got the name. He's got a pretty solid situation at Texas. They're replacing a few NFL offensive linemen, 2 for sure, I think 3. Matthew Golden gone, Isaiah Bond gone, Gunnar Helm gone. New weapons, Quintravion Wisener and C.J. Baxter will probably be RB1 and RB2. But they still got DeAndre Moore. They've got Ryan Wingo. So there's not a lack of talent on that Texas offense. But to me, it's similar to these other situations. They're just losing so much. And Arch heading into year 3. Nico heading into year 3. Lagway heading into year 2. Lenore's heading into year, I think 3, right, because of the redshirt year. Garrett Nussmeier's been around for a minute. And then Gunnar Stockton obviously entering year 4. He's got more experience than these guys. What did Arch Manning show us? He did pretty well against Mississippi State. Now, Texas didn't necessarily do super well against Mississippi State. He threw 2 picks against ULM. He destroyed UTSA. He looked pretty good in garbage time against Colorado State. When he got thrown out into the Wolves against the Georgia defense that was dominating Texas and dominating Quinn Ewers, he went out there and didn't play well either. He had 1 nice play. It was a scramble. He had 1, I think, what you would consider explosive pass play, although it was, like a 15-yard? Maybe that's not considered an explosive pass play, but he was terrorized. He turned the ball over as well. So Arch doesn't have that much experience. He definitely has talent. There's definitely the eye test there, the legs, but all of that is true about Gunnar Stockton as well. And to me, it's just interesting because you think, okay, well, probably have the best coach. Well, TBD on if Georgia has the best weapons out of all these guys. You can definitely make the argument for Texas. But I don't know. this has happened before, right, with Stetson Bennett. I'm not comparing Gunnar to Stetson Bennett, but when you look at the situation, sometimes you can say, hey, this seems pretty similar. Undersized guy, kind of doubted. But if this is about what they did in high school and what they were as prospects, obviously 5-star Nico, 5-star Arch, 5-star Lagway. Well, Gunnar Stockton is one of the best high school quarterbacks just in general, right? One of the best in the state of Georgia ever. One of the most productive. So there's nothing missing there. Maybe he doesn't have the supreme arm talent that some of these guys have. Maybe he's not quite as fast, but what we've seen out of Gunnar is not as much play time as some of the other guys, but someone who has played in big moments, right? And a lot of these guys played in big moments. Nico played in the college football playoff, didn't play well. Gunnar played in the college football playoff. He played in the SEC championship. So he's been there before. I'm just curious because if the weapons are better and if everybody is saying Georgia's run game is not going to be quite as good, they're going to be relying on Gunnar Stockton's arm more. Why would he not be valued as high as some of these other players? Food for thought. It's just a conversation I wanted to have. Let me know what you think down below.